This episode is brought to you in part by the Table Podcast from the Hendricks Center at Dallas Theological Seminary. I'm Darrell Bach, one of the hosts, and I invite you to join us as we discuss issues of God and culture, which includes anything and everything. Listen on your podcast app or at dts.edu/thetable.
Welcome to Grace Enough Podcast and the 12 Days of Christmas in July series, brought to you by schoolhouseteachers.com. A firm Christian-based worldview is the springboard needed in today's world, which can be attained with a schoolhouseteachers.com education. Use code EXPLORE to pay only $179 for a 2-year ultimate membership during schoolhouseteachers.com Explore the World BOGO event. This is an incredible savings opportunity. Sign up now and receive a complimentary Explore the World tote while supplies last. Certain restrictions will apply. With your schoolhouseteachers.com membership, you can create your own homeschool schedule using over 400 unique courses, videos, lap books, unit studies, and more. One price covers the entire family, giving you immediate access to hundreds of resources, including virtual school boxes for kindergartners through high schoolers. Sign up at schoolhouseteachers.com using code EXPLORE today. Now, let's jump in to our 12 Days of Christmas in July series. Each year, as Christmas approaches, I receive a text, an email, or a direct message that goes something like this. Hey, do you have a list of your favorite nonprofits to shop for Christmas? And every year, I say, I don't have a list, but here are some places I recommend. This doesn't just go for Christmas. I get this question for Teacher Appreciation Days, birthdays, and other events. Well, I'm going to remedy that now with 12 Days of Christmas in July. Each day, I sit down with a founder, executive director, or content creator of nonprofits and small businesses that I recommend. You will learn the mission and backstory behind the business, how your purchase impacts their employees, and some items they love. Before we begin day one with Hope and Vine founder Rachael Smith, I encourage you to follow Grace Enough on Instagram at GraceEnoughPodcast_Amber, as I will be giving away items from all 12 businesses and authors at the end of our 12 days together. It's a really fantastic giveaway. All right, let's drop in to day one's conversation featuring the nonprofit Hope and Vine. Well, good morning, Rachael. Thank you for being here this morning. I am thrilled to share Hope and Vine with my listeners as a business that I support and am grateful for because of what you are doing for women who are aging out of foster care. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
I know it's nice when it's a real life friend that even though we haven't seen each other in what feels like forever.
I know. When we first got on, I'm just like smiling at you. I'm like, oh, I'm so happy to see your face.
It's been a while. Well, tell everybody a little bit of the mission behind Hope and Vine.
Yes. So the mission of Hope and Vine is to prepare young women who have aged out of foster care to successfully transition to a secure and stable future.
And so how do you all really go about doing that? Mm-hmm. Because that's, I know you're like me, you can spout that mission statement off, but sometimes all of us that are listening, we're like, okay, wait a minute. Foster care, they're aging out. How do you help them get a stable and secure future?
Yes. So we help by giving them the opportunity for employment. So they work as artisans and they make inspirational jewelry, apparel, and accessories. And then we also help them be connected in the community, whether that is just personal connections or if that is connections for services that they need. And then we help them do that by mentoring them. And that just looks very natural. When we first started, we thought we would, pair each young lady up with their own mentor. And about 6 months into that, we realized, oh, that doesn't work. Let's try a different approach.
Yeah.
And so because we are working with them hours every week, we operate staff as mentors, and we just pour into them and listen to them and really try to not give advice, but help them kind of navigate their own way.
Yeah. And so does that happen like around the table while they're creating? Is that the goal? Like everybody's just sitting around the table working and talking?
Yes, that's exactly it. It reminds me of like in the olden days. And I mean, I'm sure some women still do this, but like when women would sit around and quilt.
Yeah.
And it's just easier to have a conversation and to share. It's less intimidating because you are shoulder to shoulder rather than face to face. They don't, I mean, some of them do see therapists, but that's not what we're here for. We're not another therapy session for them. We're just there to just listen. Like they can just vent and be honest and say whatever shocking thing they're going to say. And we're just like, oh,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, and I mean, anybody that's listening too, if you've done any reading or if you're the mom of boys by chance, that, I mean, therapists, anybody will say, if you really want to get your boy to talk, do side by side play.
Oh, yes.
To get conversation going. I mean, it's something that's actually well researched in the brain. And so it's really a beautiful model, particularly when you're talking about somebody who has had some trauma in their life, right? Like, I mean, not that all foster care, I'm not saying foster care is traumatic. It can be.
Yes.
But you've been separated from your parents.
Yeah. I mean, that alone is traumatic.
Yeah. And many of these people, I'm assuming for you, and tell me if I'm wrong, because they're aging out of foster care, they've probably been in foster care for many, many years. Is that correct?
I'm thinking specifically in our situations. Yes, most of them went in late school age, early, like preteen age. For most of them is when they entered the foster care system. So they've been in it, really just through all those, like 10 and up, those, developmental years.
Formative years.
Yes.
What is the age when a woman ages out of foster care?
So they technically age out at 18. There is a program now that is like backed on the federal level that you can sign yourself back up for foster care for the 18 to 21-year-old program. And that varies on states. Most states are 18 to 21. Here in North Carolina, that's what it is. So they technically age out and then they sign themselves back up. And then it looks a little different when you're in that program. So all of the young ladies we have worked with have taken advantage of that program.
That's great. I mean, really, if you have good support, that's really, really great.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit of the backstory of Hope and Vine.
Well, it's interesting. So many times when, organizations get started or, nonprofits, ministries, whatever, it's because the person who has started it has lived it. And that's not my story. I grew up with, not a perfect family, but a loving family. But so it's funny to me that I'm like, why am I like so passionate about this? But it all started back like 2014. My husband and I had gone to church and it was Sanctity of Life Sunday. And I never really was aware of that before. But the sermon was about just how all life has value from the unborn to the elderly. And it was just a very impactful service. And leaving church, I was very quiet, and Jeremy, my husband, says to me, what are you thinking? And I said, well, I think we need to adopt. And that's not what he thought I was thinking. But that started the conversation of, wanting to reach out and to serve, children who needed that love and support. And so our journey led us to, okay, well, let's foster to adopt. And so we went through that process when we lived in South Carolina. And it was a very awful process. And it took so long that my daughter was conceived and born in that span of time before they ever came out to do the home studies. So anyway, we finally made it through that process. And then we found out we were moving to North Carolina. And so that stuff doesn't transfer. So when we were here, we had to wait a year. So North Carolina requires you wait a year after a major life event before starting the foster care process. So in that year, my husband and I, our hearts just changed that we didn't want to adopt anymore. But we did feel strongly about foster care. We believed in reunification. I was very convicted of the judgment that I held against the birth families, and the Lord, just worked me through that process, and I actually have a lot of like love and compassion for the mothers. And I realized that if we really want to help the children, we need to help the whole family. Then in February of 2018, we started going through our foster care classes. And in those classes, the staff at the county they're like, as soon as you walk in, they're like, oh, you want to foster some teens? There's some teens that you can foster. The teens are great to foster. I mean, they are like shoving it like in your face. And then they talked about this, program for 18 to 21-year-olds, and they talked about what happens when they age out. And we were just ignorant. Like, we just didn't know, even though we went through this whole process in South Carolina. Like, I just don't feel like, I mean, maybe they did, and I just don't remember, but I don't remember them talking about this problem there. And so coming here and just being like, I'm sorry, what? Like, what happens? Like, they're like, what? 18-year-olds homeless? Like, all these kids in jail? Like, they're being trafficked? Like, we were just the blinders came off. And then we knew we needed to do something, but we weren't sure what. And so a few months went by, and at that time, I had a writing ministry and was making jewelry myself as a way to share the message I was writing about. And just in my office one day, just the Holy Spirit was like, Rachel, like, this is how you help. And it's like, oh, like, it was so obvious. But, it's that whole message of when God is talking to Moses, and, Moses is telling God like all the reasons that he can't do this job. And God's like, Moses, what's in your hand? And my staff's in my hand. And he's like, okay, throw it down, and it turns into a serpent. And it's like, okay, well, what's in your hand? And like, what was in my hand at that time was jewelry. And, so I threw it down and just like, okay, Lord, like, let it become what you want it to become. So, I mean, that was when I say it was conceived in my brain. And then it was a few more months before it actually had words. And then it was just,
one step after another.
Taking one, yes. And then, maybe 20 steps back and then starting over.
That's every startup. Anybody that's listening.
Oh my God.
That's everything, any startup ever, right?
Oh, it's exhausting.
Well, so tell me, if someone, clicks over right now and buys a Hope and Vine product, how does that have an impact in the lives of the women who work for you?
There's the obvious that, the more purchases are made, the more resources we have that we can, be able to work with more young women. And it's much more fun to come into work when we have lots of things to work on.
That's right.
And to actually have those
when you
things
need increased inventory, that's good, right?
Yes, that's
right.
a good problem. And so, there's just that simple, purchasing and making, but it's fun for them to see, like, I made that and people bought that. Like, it's that confidence boosting. It's, to be able to actually make something with your hands and, to see someone like, that's the best, right? Like, when you like see someone out in public and you're like, wait a minute, it's helping their confidence. We're working with them on job skills, just, basic basic job skills. And, so it gives them all those opportunities to learn and to learn in a safe environment where like, it's okay that you're going to mess up, and we're going to just, talk about it and move
and I
on.
think that's the thing, that it can be easily missed when you're not really thinking about all the things that someone may miss out on who has not had a consistent family, is maybe they don't know even what it's like to receive a paycheck, and then you get that paycheck and you have to really think through where all those things are going to go. You can't just spend it all in one place. And I mean, I think we all have to learn that. But it's really, really nice when you have consistent, healthy support from a place like Hope and Vine.
Yes, that is our prayer.
Okay, so what do you love? What do you love about the work that you're doing with the women, with your team, with Hope and Vine as a whole?
Their stories like that. I mean, I just love their, like our motto is like, because all of our pieces have a meaning behind them. So like, our thing is, every item tells a story and every story has a purpose. That's these young women, like they come in with these stories, and to see them break free of that like bondage of their story and to find the freedom and the redemption in that, because there's a lot of chain breaking that happens when we find our voice. Because when we hold all that in and when we live in this secret, like it's so easy for the enemy to just cover us with this cloud of shame, right? And we just like live in that bondage. So to hear them, one, it's humbling, like for them to trust us with their stories is extremely humbling. And then just to see them like work through that story and to walk that hard path of forgiveness, that like, I don't, relate to their childhood story, but like I can relate to, oh, I know what it's like to be bitter. Yeah, let's walk through that together. And, and as they're, learning, because they're so young and the boundary issue is so real. I mean, I'm in my 40s, I'm twice their age. And I'm like, yeah, let's walk through this boundary issue together, because I'm walking through that too. And to just like hear their stories and like learn from them, and then to see them, oh my goodness, to see them when they reach the point of gratitude for their story, to have like, we've had a couple girls, come through our Hope and Vine, and they're like, I'm thankful for foster care, because if it wasn't for this, like I wouldn't be where I am today. Like, what?
Right.
Like, Lord, forgive me. Like, I am such a brat. And
same girl.
I'm humbled by them continually.
Wow. I love that. And I just know that, I mean, you can't really know. We just live in our own little worlds. So often, I'm speaking to myself here. And when you really get into someone else's world, it's surprising how you can become so much more empathetic than you ever thought possible. So tell me, what are some of your favorite products?
Oh my
at Hope and Vine? I know you all, and they change all the time. So somebody may be listen and they might be different.
Well,
but I want someone to know, like, hey, this is Christmas in July.
Yeah.
Go buy something from Hope and Vine.
Yeah.
Send it to your sister, your friend.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, so I have to say, I live by the motto that earrings can never be too big.
Same.
Okay. So
I think you know that about me, probably, because I mean, everything on Instagram, I'm just like, woo, earrings.
So my personal go-to favorite, because they go with everything, is the dark denim refuge earrings. And it's repurposed denim that had been discarded, and we have turned them into these feathers, and they like graze the top of my shoulders, and I'm like, these are just the most like glorious things. We have ventured into the more modest earrings. So
We must have balance, Rachel. We must have balance.
I know. It's good. It's good. But they're still like edgy and kind of funky. And so with in our spring line that came out, there's a lot of wood and metal pieces. Yeah. So they're very like classic, but it's like a spike made out of coconut shell, which like, how cool is that? And then there's I really like the refined earrings. So it's this wood piece that's actually burnt around the edges, and then it hangs from a gold ring. And it's the message that we've been refined by fire. And they're they're, kind of funky and edgy, but like they're very classic looking too. So that's my favorite new earring. Yes.
Awesome.
But then our t-shirts.
I was going to say, it's not just earrings.
No, it's not. I know, but I love the earrings. So the t-shirts, our Hope t-shirt is probably like, that's just kind of our classic. We did roll it out in a new color this year. But we have this new blue shirt that says Live Extra. And it's this like, because we're supposed to like live abundantly, like Christ has come to give us abundant life. So like, let's live extra. And the words in it are in velvet.
Yes, girl.
Because,
I just need a shirt that says I am extra.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. I love it.
But that's great. So what color in velvet? Or do you have different colors?
Well, so it's navy blue velvet
on
like a sky blue.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I'm excited. So tell me, it's hopeandvine.org.
Yes. Yep. And that's spelled out. So hopeandvine.org.
Well, Rachael, thanks so much. I love what you're doing. Everybody go shop at Hope and Vine.
Thank you so much, Amber.
Get shopping, friends, or at least save this episode for reference when you are looking to buy your next gift. Don't forget to follow Grace Enough on Instagram at GraceEnoughPodcast_Amber so you can enter the huge giveaway coming at the end of 12 days of Christmas in July. Let's meet back here tomorrow for day 2 with Dwell Differently.